There's nothing like a fruit-filled turnover on a crisp fall day for an afternoon nibble or my favorite course, dessert. I'm Divya Gugnani at Borgata in Atlantic City at the Pastry Kitchen, where we're going to get a one-on-one sweet session. So let's go behind the burner and meet the pastry chef. I'm here with executive pastry chef Thaddeus DuBois. Thaddeus, I see lots of beautiful green apples. What are we doing with them?
We're going to make a sun-dried cherry and apple turnover for the fall. It's great for the morning times or a snack or whenever you want it. It's good with ice cream too. Green apples are great because they're nice and tart. You don't want to use sweet apples.
They're great for baking because they hold up to the bake.
Yes, they're very firm, they're tart, and then you can add some sugar so you can monitor the sweetness that way. What I have here is a fancy peeler, an apple peeler. You don't have to use one. If you don't have one, you don't have to buy one, but I'm going to show you because it's kind of fun. It's got a blade on the end there. And then it's got a peeler there, and it's going to cut it right there. It's actually peeling it right now, it's coring it, and it's slicing it. So you got three things going on at once. It's almost like a slinky.
So at home, if you didn't have this, you could just use your
regular we're going to use a knife.
Or a regular knife.
And I'll show you a trick with this too. You just cut the two ends off, and then you just take the knife and just a round apple like this. Some people would take the core now. It's kind of difficult. So all I'm going to do is cut
around it.
Exactly. Okay, it's now time for the filling. And what I did with the apples here, we cut them a little bit smaller so we can get them into the turnover. And I wanted to show they're brown right now, okay? And that's actually okay because anytime you bake apples, what do?
They turn brown anyway.
They turn brown anyway, so don't put any lemon juice on it right now. All we do is put everything in here. It's very simple.
So cinnamon in. You need the cherries.
Cherries, about a half a cup of sugar. You can use brown sugar or light brown sugar. It adds a little bit more richness than white sugar. And then cornstarch, that's for thickening. The juice, the apples will release a little juice while they'll bake, and that'll kind of bind it together.
That's great to use cornstarch because apples can get runny with the wateriness, and then the cornstarch will help bind that.
And then a little salt, of course, for flavor. Now I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice now for flavor. It's not to prevent the apples from browning because they've already browned. So I'm just going to squeeze the lemon into my hand.
So you can catch the seeds.
Exactly. You don't need a strainer. Now, we're going to mix this together. We got a fork, a spoon, or whatever. It's very easy. You can use nutmeg. You can use ginger. It depends on what you like. And also, the sun-dried cherries can be replaced with sun-dried blueberries. Is very good.
Yeah,
apricots, cranberries are good for, as you get towards November and December.
Perfect.
So there's the filling. This dough has cornmeal. It's more like an Italian pie dough with the cornmeal, so it's a little bit interesting. It has
a little bit flaky?
It has a nice flakiness and a nice texture that's different. Put that right into the bowl, and then all the dry ingredients are going to go in.
Sugar.
White sugar again.
And I've got a little salt here, and then I've got cornmeal.
Cornmeal, that's the special ingredient in this.
Zest.
This is fresh zest. That's a great flavor agent. You can also use lemon for this. The oils of a citrus fruit is what gives the flavor in the zest, so you get much better flavor. I'm just going to mix this together with my hand.
Hands are your best tool for making pastries.
We're going to add the butter actually next. It has to be very cold butter and cubed in very small cubes. You can't use soft butter because what happens, it mixes too well with the flour and then the water won't incorporate into it. And I kind of go like this, just a little bit. I'm not really squeezing it together too much. I'm just letting it fall out of my hands. It takes a good minute or two to do this. Now we go to the water. Make sure it's ice water. Colder the water, like the butter, the better. So if you add the water in stages, you have to keep mixing it a little too much. So I usually add it all at once. I'm going to tip it out onto the workspace. We're going to finish combining it together.
So why do you like to do it a day before?
Because again, it has to do with chilling. So we want the dough to be nice and chilled. Here's the dough from yesterday, okay? It's wrapped up in plastic. It's important to keep it wrapped overnight.
You want to keep all that moisture in.
Exactly. Wooden surface is the best. Marble surface is great too. Stainless steel, that's okay. When you dust flour, you go from an angle, from a 45-degree angle.
And the reason you're powdering the surface is that you don't want the dough to stick to the surface.
And the other thing is you don't want tons of flour on the table. You want a little bit. Sometimes you'll see people just like that. You don't want a lot of flour because it's going to make the dough tough. A French rolling pin it's a straight pin without handles, and sometimes it can be tapered. A regular rolling pin is just as good. You need to keep turning the dough, all right? What happens is if you don't turn the dough, it could stick under the table. You can take out your daily frustrations, things like that. If you like a dough a little bit thicker, you could roll it to maybe a 1/4 inch. I'll usually take it down to like 3/8. I've got a cookie cutter here. It's one way to do it. You also, if you don't have cookie cutters, you can just take like a template, like a cardboard template, and cut it out with a knife. If you don't have a nice, pretty gold board, you can use a plate. I'm just going to add a little bit of applesauce there. This is the filling, which has been sitting, so it's kind of thickened up a little bit. And we're just going to put the filling there. This is a new product that's only been out for maybe 5 years. It's egg wash in a can.
Oh, wow.
The reason I'm spraying it right now is because I want it to seal well, and that helps it seal if I put the egg wash inside. So I'm going to fold it over this way. I'm just going to crimp the edges here with the fork. Actually, I like to take the cutter and kind of make the turnover a little more uniform in size. If it sticks on a table, just take a little knife and take it up. Yeah. If you egg wash it now, you get a nice shine when it bakes. So I put a little egg wash on there. Sugar in the raw.
Okay.
I like it because it gives it a nice crunch on the outside. And then cinnamon and sugar just for the flavor and for the color. I'm just going to take a pair of shears here, and we're just going to snip it. When it bakes, it needs to release that moisture. So if you don't actually snip it, it could come out of the edge
It'll
here.
just ooze out of the sides, and you don't want that.
So you want, and it also gives a nice decorative pattern on top of that.
That's
so this would go in the oven, 400 degrees, very hot oven, for about 15-20 minutes. Don't be afraid to get it brown. It really needs to get good color because that's where you get flavor, where the sugar's caramelized. Now we let it cool for about 15 minutes. It's not hot anymore, it's just slightly warm maybe. The thing about these kind of things, it's best to make them the day that you're going to eat them, unfortunately.
It's got that really great cherry flavor. It's a little bit tart,
Yes.
apple, very sweet. You got the raw sugar texture on the outside,
You got
very
the cornmeal
crunchy.
in the dough.
Cornmeal in the dough. And it's very flaky at the same time.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Stay tuned to Behind the Burner, where we give you the tips, tricks, and techniques that are lighting the culinary world on fire.